So, but everybody okay on compare instruction? Yes, so Brianna's okay with it. So jump. You used to jump over rungs. Okay, y'all listen up. Jump, we use jump to jump over rungs. We can jump forward, so we can jump forward from zero toward the end statement, or we can jump from backwards. We can jump forward or backwards over rung. Always assign the number that begins with Q2. So these are Q2. We don't have data files. This is just different than all our data files that we would possibly use. So our jump instructions will assign it a number, Q2, and then the X we would replace a number. But for every jump instruction, you got to have a label instruction, and the label instruction has got to have the same jump, same address, same number as, not an address, the same number as the jump instruction. Everybody understand that? We can have jump instructions. The book says 256. That's not true. We can have jump instructions. We can have 1,000 of them. So our Qs could be Q20 through Q2:999. So we have up to 1,000 jumps inside a program. Everybody got that correction? And we can use these for condition. In programming, we used to call them if-then statements, if-then else. If this is true or not true, then jump over sections inside the program. So jump the label. So these are combinations. So in programming, we programming we have two. It depends on the language. Some languages call this the go-to statement. Go-to label, and of course jump the label. So jump the label. We have to use these in pairs, located in the program control instruction group. So that's going to be across the top of the tab. Let's see if I got RF Logic still running. Yes, I do. So right here, the program control group. Oops, wrong place, Rich. So it's all the way program control. And here's the jump right here, and here's the label instruction side by side. Now, where's another place you can grab these from instead of going through all these menus? You can bring up the whole list, right? Right. We looked at that, right? Okay. And they're in alphabetical order here, right? So there's the jump, and then there's a label. Okay. Always used in pairs. Every jump instruction has to have its own label, input instruction. So the jump instruction is an output instruction. The label instruction is going to be an input instruction. So what we're going to have to do on our label instruction is we're going to have to put some type of output out there. Normally we use one of our internal coils, our B files, right? Jump instruction, the label instruction that the jump sends the program to must have the same number. Jump instruction numbers can be repeated to cause the program to jump to the same label. So we can have different jump instructions jump into the same label. Everybody understand that? Program jumps can be forward or backwards. That's already been stated. Unconditional. Unconditional always skips over sections of a program without meeting a predetermined condition. the figure in the textbook and on the next slide demonstrating an unconditional jump is wrong. Automatically inserts in the PLC machine language the jump from end. Okay, so the end instruction, we've been using a jump instruction all the time. So how does the PLC know when it hits the ending section to jump back up to the first rung? Well, see, it's doing that automatically for us, right? You understand? Seldom if ever used, may be used to skip over sections of the PLC program while under development or troubleshooting. So if we ever use an unconditional jump instruction, that means we very seldom use it. But if I want to take out a section of a program because something's going on, then we can jump over to unconditional. Unconditionally means there is nothing in the rung except an output instruction. There's no context. If you put a jump, you've got to have a label. Period. These are pairs. These that you want to skip over. So the rung you want it to go to. So the jump instruction is where you want to come from, and the label instruction is where you want to go to. That makes sense. Good point. So we've already seldom used unconditional jumps because they always occur, no matter what. So if I have something on the left-hand side, some type of input instruction, that is not an unconditional jump, because if I say a switch has to be closed, then a condition has to be met, right? You understand what I'm saying? Yes or no? So an unconditional jump instruction would look like this. If I can get this to work. Didn't want to do that. Right here. Oh, it's not going to let, I bet my keyboard's not working anymore. It happened to me today, too. Yeah, and this is the actual program. So we'll look at this. So this is in the book. This is right out of the book. But this is what the problem is I didn't enable editing, so that's probably why I couldn't change anything. I don't know. I have to go back and look. I think it's the 14th. I think. I just show up. So an unconditional jump instruction would look like this. I think it's a coil. Yeah. And then up here we'd put like Q2:3. Jump is an output. And then we would have all these rungs down through here. If I jump forward, then I would have all these rungs down here. And on this one, we'd put a label. Down here, we'd put a label. And then we would come up here and give it the same number as the jump instruction. This is an unconditional jump. Why would we use this? Because it would always skip over all these rungs and go down to there, right? You understand? With no input. As soon as I put an input into that rung, this is conditional. So now we're saying that contact has to be closed before the jump occurs. So conditions have to be met. So like I said, very seldom do we use an unconditional jump instruction unless we're troubleshooting, right? And we want to skip over a section of a program on purpose, then we could use a jump. If we have a section of the line that goes down, right, and we're replacing it with people, right, and we want to take out that section while we're out there working on it, right, you understand what we get? We could use an unconditional jump and jump over the section of the program, and nothing will happen while they're out. Nothing will try to happen while they're out there, right, you understand? Or something like that, something that you don't want that section of that program to run. So very seldom do we use unconditional jumps. So as soon as I put a contact or anything, if I put a compare instruction, if I put a contact, then that's no longer unconditional, right? You understand why? Because the condition has to be met. So that's primarily what we're going to use in this class, in fact. Always skips over a section of program. Figure in the textbook is demonstrating an unconditional jump is wrong. I mean, why? So here's the slide. Why is that not an unconditional jump? Yeah, this condition has to be met before the jump occurs. So what happens so this program will scan through here. If this contact's not closed, it'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3. You close this contact, it'll go 0, 1, 3. It'll skip over what? Run it. But the address of your jump, so not the address, the number of your jump and the number of your label have to match where you want it to go to. I just wanted to make sure, yeah, it's your book. And it says, why is this technically not an unconditional jump? Not an unconditional jump. Because of what? A condition has to be met before the jump occurs. And this is going to be, so subroutines, we do have unconditional subroutines. So we have conditional and unconditional subroutines. And a subroutine, an unconditional subroutine would have no input on the left-hand side. A conditional will have something, right? You understand? We're okay? Are we okay? Okay. So I just drew that line to make sure you understood where we jumped to. But we could go backwards, right? You understand? So I could have a jump down here that sends it back where? Up here. And we could keep repeating rungs until the condition is met. Yeah, so let's come down here and let's put a switch right there, and then over here, instead of using this, we'll put our jump down here. JMP, Rich. Okay, and then we give it a number, Q2 colon. Well, we could still use 3. That's okay. And then up here, I would come over here, and let's say up here, I put my label. Of course, we need some more rungs in there. Let's don't put it way up there. Let's put it right here. So what would we jump backwards for? This is if we want to constantly repeat a section of rungs until something comes true. So don't scan any more of the program until it what? Yeah, until something happens. So jumping backwards. So we can put the label right here. I need to not lose that tape, guys, because that's got my corrections on the test. I'll get this in a minute. Where's my marker? Let's say you had you were packing boxes and you were using counters, and one of them you want to go to 6, and one of them you want to go to 12. Well, what you could do is you could have a switch up there in your panel and mark 12 and 6, right? You understand? So you flip it to 6, you could jump it over the what? 12 count, right? If you flip it to 12, you jump over the what? 6 count. Or you want to make it something happen. You want to say, okay, I want to sit here and run this loop until something happens. And so looping program, so this is called a loop. Causing loops inside a program is a very powerful situation, right? So in robotics, we might have the robot sit there and we're looping our program until an input input goes through. And then as soon as the input goes through, we do what? Come out of the loop. So we can literally cause the stall. I mean, these is built into robots. These loops like this is built into robots because we do that all the time. In robots, they call it a wait for. So you say wait for this input. So it just sits there and it sits in that line and just waits for an input. So we do that all the time in robots. And since we do that all the time in robots, we have one instruction we can make a wait on something. Sure, all you have to do is just put a counter in there. And it, yeah, but it'd be so fast you couldn't see it. But if you delay the loop, then you can do that. Yeah. Are we okay? So I didn't get mine going backwards yet. So if we go backwards, we're going to cause it to loop right within a certain group of rungs. There's my markers. No, that's not. I don't see my markers yet. That's it. No, that's not. Let's draw with this. I can't see my. This is the guy that doesn't do a real good job. So this guy here would be the what? The label. And then we would give it the same number. Q2:3. So what would happen here is it would what? If this was a normally open contact, I mean, if we close this contact, then what would happen? You would just loop through these what? These rungs until that contact goes through or goes false. Yeah. So this would be causing the program to wait on something to happen, right? Does that make sense? So jumping forward basically is when you make it go forward if it's something's happened. We're not looping. If we jump back, then we're going to be the program will sit there and do what? Yeah, we call it a loop. So if you're doing robot programming, if you write a program, it'll just come down and when it gets to the program, it'll just do what? Stop. Well, what if you wanted the robot to keep looping? Well, how would you do that? Well, you got an instruction, right? Some of the robots over there call it a go-to label. So some programming languages call it a go-to label, and then other programming languages calls it jump the label. In operation and programming, y'all don't make the program loop, do y'all? Well, you do. No, well, you just put a jump instruction. So if you go through your program control instruction, there's going to be a go-to or a jump inside there, and it's a go-to label. It's the same dang thing. It's just robots don't automatically loop. So PLC programs automatically loop. They follow this sequence right here. They automatically loop, right? Robot programs don't automatically loop. No. They go from the stop to the finish. If you wanted it to loop, you would have to do what? You would have to put a jump instruction at the bottom, and you would have to put a label at the stop. So some of y'all said that. Some of y'all taken some of the robot programs, right? Conditional jumps, this is basically all the things we've got in the book, only occurs when predetermined conditions are met, activated by one or more input instructions. Usually we can a contact or a compare instruction, but any input instruction. We haven't talked about all the input instructions. So right now, the only input instructions that we've seen so far is what? We've seen the compare instructions and then contacts. Those are all input instructions. And input instructions automatically go to the what? to the left, right? Output instructions automatically go to the right. So this is an example of a conditional jump. So we start off with a counter, then we say if it's equal to what, can y'all see that? Y'all can find it in your book. So what figure number is this in the book? You'll find it in the textbook. Yeah, y'all need to find it in the textbook because this one is just, yeah, I know, that's why y'all need to find it. 11-2. So so when would the first jump be executed? Oops. So in fact, it's on the side. We got a jump instruction in rung 1, and then we got another jump instruction. These are jumping forward into rung 4. So when would the first jump occur? Yeah, when would it jump over rung 2? You can't say it. Can't say it. When the accumulator of counter 0 equals what? Yeah. So when it gets up to what? 5, then it'll jump over, go to this label instruction, right? So it's going to skip over rung 2 when it gets to rung 5, right? So what would happen if the green light was on? Well, if it's jumping over it, guess what you can't do? You can't turn it off anymore because it's jumping over that rung, right? And it'll maintain this last condition. And we get into that in subroutines too. If you had it off, it would stay off. If you had it on, it would stay on no matter what you put on that switch because you're jumping over that scan, right? Understand that? So it'll stay in whatever condition it was in. So when would the rung? I'm telling you the answer, guys. That's why it surprised me. When would it jump over rung 5? When it's greater than 7, then it would jump over rung 5 and go over here. So basically, you go to rung 6, right? So he doesn't give any examples of jumping backwards because in a section to loop, all it gives is forward jumps. So any questions on this? Yes, no? I can't know. This guy is not hard. Master control reset, MCR instruction, does not replace the required external hardware. First of all, e-stops have to be hardware. Everybody understand why? The only place I know that it's not always hardware is inside a robot. But what the robot does is compensates it for what we call a control reliable or double e-stop. So what you do on robots is you have two separate circuits that are controlled by the same e-stop. But the e-stop has two normally close contacts in it. And what happens if one of them fails, the other one will always work. So you'll have to have a double failure for the e-stop on a robot. Yeah, that's what it is. So they have two separate electronic circuits that's detected in each stop. They have two, even though you only see one each stop button on your control pendant and your T pendant and your controller, you only see one. It's a double contact. So it's actually got two of them. It's a double pole. So it's a double pole switch. So if one of them gets stuck and the other one opens, then you'll still each stop. Normally, that's about the only place I know where they don't allow that. And you take a lot of other capabilities, guys. In PLCs, what we normally try to do is we reinforce the each stop button with a master control reset. Does not replace required external hardware each stop. Hardware each stop circuits disconnects the power to all non-critical outputs. We'll show you all the circuit. So we use this in conjunction with a hardware each stop. We always use these in pairs. And you don't assign addresses. We just have one MCR up here. We'll have to have another one where? Down here. The first one would have to be conditional. These are output instructions. The second one would always be unconditional. Everybody understand that? You don't know what I mean by conditional and unconditional? What do I mean? So the first one would have some type of condition that it would have to be met. So we might have a contact up there. We might have some type of statement up there, an input instruction. The second one is going to have nothing on the input side. So the second one is non-conditional. The first one is conditional. Disables all non-retentive outputs between the pair of MCR if MCR is false. First MCR is false. Inputs are still scanned and updated. So the inputs are still scanned. The only thing the MCR does is kicks out all what? Okay, so what are our retentive and our non-retentive outputs? What instructions do we do with those? You did one basic lab. Some of y'all got to it, some of y'all didn't. We call them, we have two coils. We have what we call a latch, and then we have an unlatch. These guys have exactly the same address, guys. So if this is output 0/0, then this would have to be what? Output 0/0. So if we latch an output, then it would be considered retentive, and the MCR would take care of it, unless you got rid of it some other way. Now, once we latch it, you have to unlatch it, right? Now, you can kill the output. MCRs does not require an address. Additional MCR pairs cannot be within another MCR pair, so we can have multiple MCRs. It's just that we can't have them one inside another. Everybody understand that? Use the stop operation of control systems during a high voltage power. This is anytime I need to stop things, then this would be things that we might look at. Usually connected to a control power switch. So these are your retentive. We just talked about. This would be the latched output, right, or not disabled. And this doesn't tell you in the what. It does tell you non-retentive. Does it tell you that in the book? So right now, the only non-retentive output we have is using the latch instruction. Not that any device that must be state entered. So sometimes, guys, even during each stop, there might be a critical device out there that we cannot disengage. So like a big robots usually have brakes on them. And so if you hit the stop, you wouldn't want the brakes to do what? Let go, yeah. So there are some critical things even when you hit an e-stop that, you know, those big guys. And unfortunately, on the ABB, there's a button. there's a button on the back of it you can press, and it releases all the brakes. And the robot is sitting out like that. You think what's going to happen when you release the brake? Yeah, it's on the back of the ATV. No, it's on the back of the robot itself. So here's a basic e-stop circuit. You can go back to these all the time. So we have our e-stop buttons. This would be a single station, but all they usually do is just string them all together. So we have a master reset that we can hit, brings in what they call EF. Just for this one, there's no matter, I don't know what your company calls it. Then it would seal itself in, right? You understand. And if we hit any stop button, what would it do? It kill EF. Then it's up to you what you want to do with emergency stop. Go ahead. E-stop button. Yeah, they break. Anything that's electromechanical. E-stop buttons are electromechanical, which means what? They can fail two different ways. Yeah, you had to go on. We had that. Did I tell you a story out at US Steel? We had like 50 e-stops on one of the lines out there, and they were. This thing was 3 stories high. It was where they ran the strip, and we'd have guys that wanted to take a break, and they'd be up here and they'd do what? They'd hit one of those e-stop buttons, and the line would shut down, and then so the line would shut down, and they would have to go over every one of those stations and find the e-stop. So we came up with a light panel. So we had a big light panel, had one LED or one light per e-stop. So if they were hitting e-stop, that light would go out. Yeah, but sometimes over on the over there on the Amatro line, if you hit an e-stop on any station, all 8 buttons light up, letting you know you have an e-stop. So you'd still have to do that, but that's no big deal. So this is the way we would wire a circuit if we wanted to kill the outputs. So this is the 1100s. The 1100s are so we call these AC, DC relay. And then so what does that mean? This is important to know too, guys. Yeah, that's the type of PLC the 1100 is. It's an AC, DC relay PLC. On the outside, you got to kind of look at it. On Siemens, they put it on the front, right on the front, AC, DC. So this guy right here, I'll pass this around. So this is a DC, DC, DC. No, that's the first one. The first one is what powers the PLC. So we look at this 1100. You see this power cord right here, runs down and plugs into a power outlet. So this PLC powers off of what? AC. So it powers off DC. You'd have to have a power. You'd have to have a power supply. This tells you the type of inputs. So these have DC inputs, and this tells you the type of outputs. So this is why on the 1100, when your output, you can actually hear it click. So you ever notice that? You can what you're hearing is the relay, the little relays on the output. Now, what advantages relay outputs have? So you can buy Siemens PLCs like this. You can buy AC, DC relay Siemens PLCs. You can buy AC. You can buy. So what advantage does a relay output have? You can't really see it, but so what we have is we have a common for every output. So right there, it's got V AC, V DC. So that means you decide what type of current you want that output to be. So 1100 has a common for every output. So what that means is, it means you could have one output running 120 volts AC. The one next to it could be what? 24 volts DC. Our power is different types of currents. So relay outputs, you can run different types of current. It's not specified whether it's AC or DC. The only thing you got to figure out is how much voltage can it control. That's a module. That's an extra module. So this is here. Oh, I don't know. Let me get a screw. Oh, I didn't hook up my camera. I'll do that on break. I'll show you that. So this is a lot like 1100, and what we've done is we popped it off, and this is an extra I/O module up here. So the 1100s can have up. I don't know how many the 1200s can have. So this is a 1200. This is a 1214. So it's a 1200 series, and this is really, really popular now. Instead of actually having a true rack, so most PLCs don't have a true rack like the 500 series have. Most of them usually mount on what we call a DIN rail, and I'll show y'all that when we. So what I'm doing here is this is the common to all my outputs, and there's my emergency stop. So when I hit the emergency stop, it kills the power to all my outputs, no matter whether it's AC or DC. So that means all my outputs will go off. Even no matter what the program is telling it to do, all the outputs would go false because they don't have power anymore, right? You understand that? Doesn't affect the PLC, doesn't affect the program, right? You understand that? Now, normally what we would do is somehow we would bring in another input up here. I need to put that. And we might bring it into another input that says what? Yeah. And what this would do is this might open up the scan of the program. So the program, not open up the scan, it might open up all the inputs. So now the outputs are not going to be updated and the inputs are not going to be updated, right? This would be where we could come up here and we could take non-critical inputs. So non-critical inputs, we would kill the common. Critical inputs, we would do what? We would lift those up. So, yeah. And most PLCs give you the ability to split commons. I don't think this guy right here does. Yes, it does. So this guy right here on my inputs, we have inputs 0 through 7. It has its common, and then inputs 0 through 5 has its own common. But then what we would do is we would combine this with an MCR. So we come up here and we could use one of our inputs. So this guy's got 10 inputs. It's got 2 commons. So literally, we could set we could set these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could set these up to sync, and we could do we could set these up to source. But when you look at mine, you'll see there's a black wire running across like that. So we're using the same common. What's the most popular way on input, syncing or sourcing? Over here. Just about everybody I know of over here does it the same way. Yeah, syncing inputs. Not always. Usually, most of the time over here. Of course, AC, there's no such thing as syncing and sourcing. Y'all understand that? The only time syncing and sourcing comes into play is when you're dealing with DC. So since we're dealing with DC here, so this is an AC. So here's L1, L2. We could power this thing up anywhere between 100 and 240 volts. Can y'all see that? I didn't mean to go over there. So right there between it, it says 100 to 240 volts AC. This has a 24-volt power supply in it, right here. This is plus, this is minus. Now, the problem with using the power supply, we could use the power supply in the PLC to power push buttons, because push buttons don't need current to operate. Most of your solid-state sensors, guys, these guys need current to operate, which means odds are the power supply in the PLC will not be able to power your sensors. So we have an external power supply. So this is why we're getting y'all used to drawing that external power supply, right? So I'm using the power supply that's inside the Edu unit. So I'm bringing the negative up and hooking it right here from the watt, from the power supply that's inside the Edu trainer. So I don't know what this is rated at, but it's rated. We hadn't had any problem with it yet. Yeah, on this one, because this is a watt. This is an AC, DC relay. So the first one is telling you what powers the PLC. What powers the PLC? So this guy's powered up what? AC. Yeah, so we're putting 120 volts in it, which is perfect, right? This one right here says DC, 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 which means what? You have to have a 24-volt power supply to power this. So we have an external power supply. So if you get over there, I didn't show you all that, but over there, if you was on the Amatro line, you'd notice that every one of the PLCs has a power supply up above it. On the Festo line, the power supplies are behind the line, so those are DC. Those are DC-DC relays, the 1500s we have over there. I don't know what you're saying, Brown. It depends on where the PLCs are installed at. Yeah. On both the manufacturing line, the PLCs are mounted below them, but that's just the way they mount them. A box, right? But you could probably open it up and see the inputs and the outputs. Yeah, the 1100. The only problem with the 1100 is if you have a PLC go out, you would have to rewire the whole thing. Most of your new PLCs, the terminal board is removable. So what you can do is that you can bring a new PLC off, pop the terminal board off, pop it into the new one, and you're ready to go. So you don't have to rewire anything to replace the PLC. Put the right programs in it. Do they have any examples of the MCR in your book? Because I don't have any slides on the MCR. So I need to get the 11.3. So the first MCR up here somewhere, right? Yeah, but the first one is conditional, so there's something over here, right? No, see, the first one's got to be conditional, right? Is that right? Did I get that backwards? This is conditional. There's a contact right there, right? This is unconditional. This is conditional because there's something here. So this is, right? This is unconditional because there's nothing in there. Yeah. Unconditional means there's no contacts on the input side. Conditional means there's something over there, right? Okay, let's take a break, guys. So what did I tell you I was going to do? Oh, I was going to pop off the this what I've done here, right, is I've simulated a hardwired circuit. And then all you'd have to do is just sacrifice one input for your MCRs, right? Yeah. And so this would be my master reset, which would be over here. Oops. No, I don't have it. Yeah, I do have it in mind. I don't know why it's not working. Sometimes the software gets out of sync. Okay. So right now, this rung is false. So if we don't want the master control reset to be true, so this is conditional, right? So your first one has to be conditional, which means what? It's got to have something over here controlling the. You got to have something over here. Of course, we're using a contact over each stop circuit, and the second one is unconditional, which means there's what? Nothing on the inside room. They don't require addresses. They don't require file numbers. I could not put another MCR inside an MCR. So if I needed to make some rungs true and then disable some more, we'd have to have another standard. You understand that? Yes or no? Okay. We told you about this. This is that Logic Pro that every other lab, all the even labs, I think, are Logic Pro labs, and all the odd labs are. So I don't know why. Used to they gave you a copy of student version of Logic Pro with the book. Now they don't give it to you anymore, but they still have labs in the lab book. I guess they just wanted to leave the lab book real thick, so I don't know. So guys, I think that's it. It's just I'll have to cut this out and put it into my PowerPoints. I knew that figure was in there. You know what's nice about the book is they provide all the Logic Pro circuits for every figure. The only thing I did is I added that top rung up there just to simulate an each top circuit. Any questions? Yeah, we'll go. What we do is we'll be the first class will be in lecture. Second half of the class will be in lab. Except on test days. Test days we're going to try to do what? Start off in lab and then take the test. So yes, we'll go lab. So let's go to subroutines, which is what I didn't mean to. What, Joe? You say that a lot, don't you? I'm sorry. So subroutines and interrupts. Very poor job on interrupts. In fact,